Okay, so I'm gonna review the Tarteist Pro eyeshadow palette today. I reach for this palette almost every single day, no matter what look I'm going for. A really basic look, a really intense look. I love this palette, and I thought that it would be kind of a fun challenge for myself if I tried to do 4 different looks based on the 4 rows, because if you look at it, it's kind of hard to show you because the mirror is so big, which is one of the reasons I love this palette, is because the mirror is so big, it's so high quality. But each of the rows, there's 4 mattes and there's one like shimmery iridescent color, and they all are kind of organized by their tone. So there's like warm, there's a cool tone, there's like a pinky one, and like a very neutral row. So I thought it'd be really interesting to challenge myself to make 4 completely different looks just using each row. Now, obviously you can mix up all of the colors from the different rows, but I just thought it'd be a really interesting challenge, and I tried to do different techniques or different styles along with each row as well. So it's not just the same look over and over again with different colors. I love this palette. I reach for this palette almost every single day. I think that the mattes are just the right amount of pigment and softness to where you don't get too much kick up, and they're not overly pigmented so you just have a blotch of color on your eye and they're hard to blend out. They're pigmented, they are true to color from pan to your eye, and they blend out seamlessly. I love them so much. Now, these shimmery colors, if you are a fan of glitter, you probably won't love these as much as I do. I like shimmers that are more like a sheen. I want a color that is shiny, it glistens a little bit. I don't necessarily want glitter. So in my eyes, these are absolutely perfect. I love every single one of them. You will be disappointed if you're looking for an ultra glittery type of eyeshadow. That's not what these are. They're beautiful, but they're not that. You know, you can intensify them with Fix Plus or any kind of setting spray. You can intensify them and make them a little bit more foiled looking, but they're never going to be just like a punch of glitter. Now, I love the fact that the matte shadows go from like a very pale, almost white color to all the way like you have a dark black in this palette. I love that. And I totally understand the purpose of this palette, and therefore it doesn't have a very shimmery highlight color. You could probably use, depending on your skin tone, you could use maybe one of these as like a brow bone or an inner corner highlight. They're too dark for my skin tone to do that. So for me, these don't have necessarily a inner corner highlight or a brow bone highlight. Therefore, none of the looks that I use, I didn't want to pull eyeshadows from other places. I strictly used this. I strictly used what this palette had to offer. I think the look still came out beautiful, but if you're my skin tone or lighter, this palette doesn't necessarily have like a shimmery brow bone or inner corner highlight. For me, it's not like a huge con to this palette, because that you can see the purpose. Like, you can see in this palette that kind of wasn't like the purpose, if that makes sense. It kind of wasn't the whole idea. Sometimes when you look at palettes, you think to yourself, like, what were they thinking putting these certain colors in this certain spot or in this palette as a whole? Like, what were they doing? Why were they doing this? And with this palette, I feel like you can really see what Tarte was going for. I think you can see how it's organized. I think it's organized really well. And that's what I love about it. It does leave out like a very shimmery brown bone highlight or inner corner highlight for me, but that's not even like a drop in the bucket when it comes to this palette. I love this palette so much. I think it's amazing. I think it's not too heavy, so if you want to travel with it, I think it's amazing, because it also has that really big mirror in it. So from that standpoint, there are lighter palettes out in the world to travel with, but there also are like super way heavier, way bulkier palettes that you can't travel with at all. They're just hell to travel with. I think this one is perfectly fine to travel with. I love this palette so much. I highly recommend this palette. I think it's worth every penny. You can get it at Sephora or Ulta. I think it's around $50, and it's wonderful. So we're gonna get into these eye looks. I voiced over the eye looks. Just keep in mind that the style or the technique that I was going for in each separate look, you can use for the other colors, if that makes sense. Like I did a halo eye for one of the rows. You can do a halo eye. You can use that technique on every single row if you want, but I didn't want to show you the colors and do the same look just with different colors. So there's 4 different techniques, 4 different looks, and I wanted to exhibit the colors in a lot of different ways, but just keep in mind that you can use any of these colors, any of these shimmers, and any technique you want. Just keep that in mind. I don't know if that 100% makes sense, but we're gonna get into these looks. Starting with the shade Classic, I'm gonna put this on the inner half of my eyelid, the inner corner, and the brow bone as a matte highlight. Then taking the shade Innocent and a fluffy brush, I'm gonna start my transition. It's really important for this look to keep the colors very low in the crease and not get too crazy with blending. Then taking a pencil brush and the shade Whimsy, I'm gonna pack this on the outer half of my lid and then blend it out with that fluffy brush with no additional product on it. I wanna keep the intensity mostly on the outer half of the eye, sort of in a soft cat eye shape. So just go back and forth as many times as you want until you get the intensity that you want. Then taking the shade Smoked with the same pencil brush, I'm doing the same motions just in a smaller area. Then I take that flat shader brush again and the shade Ethereal and pack that color on the center of my lid. I wanted to keep the inner corner matte and stick with the classic theme but have a pop of gold on the center of the lip. I popped on some lashes and a red lip and this look is complete. Taking the shade Vintage and a fluffy brush, I'm going to put this shade all over the inner corner and the lid just to set the eye and brighten everything up. Then taking that same brush, I'm going to start building up the color Fierce in my entire crease from inner corner to outer corner, making it pretty intense. Then taking the shade No Filter and a more dense brush, I'm going to dig that color right into the crease again from inner corner to outer corner and deepen up the look even more. Then taking the shade Vamp and a small fluffy brush, I'm just going to work that color on the outer corner. Then using the crease brush and the shade No Filter, I blend it into the crease and onto the lid to make the transition a little bit more smooth. Then I use a pencil brush and a mixture of No Filter and Vamp, and I smoke out that entire bottom lash line. Then using a flat shader brush and the shade Glam, I pack that color on the inner corner and the complete inner half of my lid, going for that standard smoky look. I just popped on some mascara and a nude lip, and this look is complete. Taking the shade Chic and a fluffy brush, I'm going to start working this into the crease from inner corner to outer corner. Then using the same brush and the shade Profesh, just deepening up that transition. Then using a small fluffy brush and the shade Mod, I'm going to pack this on the inner corner and outer corner, avoiding the middle of the lid. I kind of switch between a couple of brushes to keep everything really precise and blended. Then I go in with the shade Drama in those same areas just to deepen them up. Then using a pencil brush and the shades Mod and Drama, I smoke out the bottom lash line. I already have white eyeliner on because my eyes were so squinty and small from allergies. It was just driving me nuts, so I just threw that on before, but you don't have to do that, or you can do this now as you're doing your lower lash line. Then using that flat shader brush and the shade Minx, I'm going to pack this onto the center of the lid and create a halo eye. I added mascara and just a pink gloss because I wanted to keep everything really girly and pink and fresh. And that's the completed look. For this look, I started with no face makeup because I was using tape to get some sharp lines. Then I just put on some concealer as a base. You can use whatever type of base you prefer. I set it with some face powder, and then we can get into this eyeshadow. I used the shades Indie and Bold to somewhat start a transition for the smoky eyeliner. Then I take the shade Edgy and a pencil brush and really start packing it onto the outer corner and the lash line and blending it out as I go. Then using the shade Punked and an angled brush, I start doing an eyeliner shape and blending it out as I go as well. I don't use an eyeliner, but you can if you want, just to deepen it up even more, kind of create one more layer of like a dark, dark black. But I don't really ever do eyeliner, so I didn't think it was super necessary for me. Then I take off the tape and bam, super crisp lines. You got some smoky eyeliner going on, and poof, by the magic of editing, I have a full face of makeup on as well. Then I use a black eyeliner on my lower lash line and blend that out with the shades Edgy and Punked. I also take that angled brush to match up the outer corner to that smoky eyeliner that we have going on. Then I take the shade Trendy and pack this onto the inner corner for a dark pop of color. This gives me total modern day Dr. Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show vibes, and I was totally loving it. It's not really a look that I would wear on a daily basis, but I just thought it came out pretty cool looking and really fun. I popped on some lashes and a nude lip, and this look is complete.